Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio. This is your host for today's show, B. Alan Bourgeois. I am with Elizabeth Hall, who actually goes by a different name, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
So you have a pen name, and there's a story behind it. So if you would tell us what the pen name is and what the story is.
The pen name is Edmantha Hall. That's E-D, one word, E-D-M-A-N-T-H-A. And that was my brother's name, and he passed away in 2014. And the name Elizabeth Hall as a writer was already taken, so I just used his name. He's my pen name. It's Edmantha Hall.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was something more to it than that, but that's
No.
still good. It gives you a different type of name to go with and stuff. So you have written three what appears to be very distinct different types of books. Human Megador is a sci-fi story. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, this sci-fi, unlike most science fiction, most science fictions occur in the future. This science fiction occurs in the past. And long before aliens collected humans from all over the galaxy and located them on planet Earth, that's where the story is where the story just about starts. I just thought it was a good idea to come up with something that was different from other science fictions.
So, I mean, you're dealing with genetics here. So where did that come in? I mean, was that part of just today's news cycle, or was there something else?
I didn't hear you the last word.
The genetics aspect, is this something that you took from today's news cycle, or was it from something else?
It's just something that I made up. This woman, she's a captain. She's human, and she's the only human who lives on this planet, Tandor. And she becomes captain at age 25, and she's very intelligent for a human being because humans are not very intelligent people. And what happened is her family, her adopted parents, who is the commander and his wife of the adopted her when she was a baby, and they re-engineered her genes. So she's turning not only into a Beltese, but she's becoming what they call a human Megador. And this species occurs, it's almost like a god creature-like creature. And this occurs, one occurs about every 2,000 years in the Beltese society. And so she's losing her human characteristics, although she still looks human on the outside. On the inside, her everything is just changing. She's becoming a Beltese, but not only a Beltese, but a human Megador.
So she must be going through a lot of emotional as well as the physical aspects.
Well, yes, she is. And when she realizes that this is going on, and she can, she knows this is going on, but she can't change it. She can't do anything about it. And it caused a lot of emotional problems with her. And she has to do her job as a captain of a warship and deal with these changes as well.
Yeah, so that's a lot going on. I assume that she has some good support system within the storyline.
Yes.
And is this just a standalone, or are you going to be writing additional stories from it?
I set it up as a sequel, but I'm the type of person who, once I write a story, I don't want to write any more about it. I'm done with it, and I just go to something else. But it is set up as a sequel. And I like to write different stories. I know some authors, they write one story, and in the next story is something similar to it. I like totally different genres. I'm writing a Western and a drama at the present time. And I just like writing, my mind is just filled with all of these stories and I can't get them out fast enough.
We'll definitely touch base more with the new ones that you're working on, but I want to go ahead and go back to some of the other three that you currently have out. The other one you have is Destiny, a historical fiction. Again, totally different from the sci-fi. How did that one come about?
I read something about the yellow fever that occurred in New Orleans in 1953. That just kind of gave me an idea to write about how the slaves were treated on the plantation, and how this young girl, it starts out, she's 16 years old. Her father is the owner of the plantation and her mother's a slave, but she looks white, whiter than her half sister, And when her half sister finds out that she didn't know until when she was about 11 or 12, she found out that this girl was really her half sister and she was a slave. And although her half sister taught her how to read, her half sister just kind of disliked her ever since she found out that, hey, this is my half sister and she's a slave. And it tells about how this girl's story goes from age 16 to 17. And there's a lot of things that happened to her during that period of time.
Now,
I don't know how much of this I should give away.
Well, yeah, you don't want to give away too much. But unlike the sci-fi one, this one is based on some historical aspects. So did you research, the aspect of the slavery and all that stuff, or were you just being more creative?
No, I was just being creative. I didn't research anything. I just know about the yellow fever in 1853 New Orleans, and it does entail some of that because her father, her real father, and the stepmother actually died from yellow fever. And her mentor is a lady that she kind of worked with, and she helped her with her English and learn how to speak. She taught her how to speak like the white women from like New York, somewhere from the East, not with this Southern accent. And she was really prepping her to go off and start her life on her own. And she really had planned to run away to New York City and live independently as a white woman. But then that didn't exactly happen. She befriended another slave, a boy about her age, and he didn't know anything about what was going on in the world outside of the plantation. So she sort of told him explained to him about how the world was, because she read a lot, so she was pretty knowledgeable. And the lady, her mentor, had discussed a lot of things with her concerning this issue. And so they both decided to run away, and he was going to Canada and she was going to run off to New York City. And as it turns out, both of them planned to run away, but only one makes it out of the South.
And her goal, Mary's goal, is New York, as you were saying, but it seems like Canada somehow gets into becoming a goal as well.
Yes.
And then you have your third book, and excuse me, this one again is appearing to be totally different as far as your style or the genres and stuff. And this is Sacrificial Child.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that one.
It's about a young girl who grew up in Florida, in the countryside of Florida, and it was just her mother and father. And she was actually, her parents actually paid someone to murder her for her insurance money, her life insurance policy. And she was abducted by this man and held for 9 days. And at the end, she ends up killing him and getting away. And then she spent some time in a mental institution, and she's bouncing around a couple of foster homes. And she actually, her mentors were actually doctors, and they persuaded her to become a doctor when she grew up. And then it's just a short story, not a short story, but a chapter at the beginning that shows her childhood when she was at 13 and the ordeals she went through. And then the next chapter starts out, she's a doctor, she's an oncologist, and she's in Germany. And she meet her parents because her father was from the old country, was from Germany. And what happened is after the ordeal with her, the authorities were looking for them. So they moved to Germany, and she goes to Germany on medical sabbatical, and one of her patients is her mother. And then she finds out that her mother, the woman she thought was her mother, really wasn't, because she wasn't able to have kids, so she never had kids. And then she's wondering, who am I? Where are my parents? And she wants to go back. She wants to go back to New York and really start a search for her parents.
So again, totally different, but you do have one continuing theme throughout this, and that is the young ladies that are involved. And we'll talk about that shortly in our next segment. But this is a good point where we can stop and then take a short break for our sponsors, and then come back and we'll talk about the female characters that you have going through there. We'll be right back.
Okay.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
Love to read? Love to meet authors in person? Then check out bookfestival.network to find a book festival in your region of Texas. We are adding book festival events throughout the year, so sign up to get notices and even a coupon towards purchase of a Texas author's book. Sign up at bookfestival.network.
The war has ended, but the memory lingers on. Has been written by Helen Monday and Christian Gutling. A story of a Dutch secret agent under German occupation, highlighted drama, and then the British rescuing him and teaching him how to navigate the fairy swordfish airplane. This book can be purchased on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, written by Helen Monday and Christian Gutling.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
We're back. This is your host, Beyond Bourgeois. You're listening to or watching Indie Beacon Radio. We appreciate you being with us. Today I have with us Elizabeth Hall, who goes by the pen name Edmantha Hall, which is her deceased brother's name. We were talking about her 3 books. One of them is Sacrificial Child, the other one is Human Megmador, and then Destiny. And in these, you have a young girl represented in each book, and each one is a totally different type of genre. I'm assuming because being a female author, that's the reason you chose women. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And
I like to have my.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
No, go.
In my 3 books, my protagonists are all females. And, since I'm a woman, as you said, I like to write about women.
Have you thought about doing the other genre or other gender, the male, as a protagonist?
The male, there's one that I'm working on right now. It's a Western, and the protagonist is a male.
Okay. Are you finding it more of a challenge for yourself?
No, it's not.
Okay. Out of curiosity, is this in reference to your deceased brother as a memento, or just a whole new character?
It's a whole new character.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about this Western.
Without telling you the name of it, it's a famous TV be Western. And what happened is this man, he's married to a lady. She's white, but she grew up with the Indians. And because she did, she's not widely accepted in the society during that period of time. She is beautiful, and she marries the marshal, and they're expecting their first child. And then something happens where she's killed. Someone murders her, and her husband's objective is to find out who murdered his wife. Actually, he thinks he knows who did it, but as it turns out, the two men he thought murdered his wife really didn't. And that doesn't come about until the end of the story. But it shows this journey that he goes on. He goes back east and tries to confront these guys and try to get them arrested and bring them back to Kansas. And the ordeal, what happened was the parent of the father of these two young, they were cousins. They were cousins to each other. But what happened is they drugged him, they shanghaied him, and most of this story really tells about how he worked on this ship after he had been shanghaied, and he didn't think that he was going to ever get back alive. But he does.
So you do have a lot going on there. And again, it's a totally different genre. You mentioned earlier that you just have a lot of story ideas coming to you.
Right.
What brings these story ideas to you? I mean, because they're so different as far as the genres go.
I don't know. I've just always been good at different stories. And I started out writing when I was about 26, and I never published anything, but I used to write stories, and I just like to write. I was I have a degree in chemistry, and my second degree is in engineering. So I was writing technical things, and then I started writing fiction, and it was totally different because, with science fiction, you'd have to worry about emotions and writing from someone's point of view. And I was really not a good writer in that area. And I was a member of a writing group when I lived in Colorado, and they helped me quite a bit.
Now, you mentioned also that you have another book you're working on. What's this one about?
The other one is about an attorney, and it's a woman again. She's an attorney, and actually she gets mixed up with her client. She's about 20 years older than him, and they ended up having an affair. And he was really suspected of being a serial killer. The police suspected him, but she didn't think he ever murdered anybody. So she goes to court with him concerning one of the murders, and he gets away because she's really a good attorney. He gets away with the crime, but she doesn't know it at that point, but he actually did murder this woman. And she finds out the hard way. He murders her daughter and her husband. She was married, but at this point, she doesn't know that. And then at the end, actually, he tries to kill her.
Lots of stuff going on there, something to keep you on your seat about. With all these characters you have, a lot of authors will comment that they have the characters talking to them, trying to get out, trying to get their story told and stuff. Is that how you feel with some of your characters?
No, not at all.
No.
I mean, I put myself in the protagonist. I put myself in their shoes, like look at it from their point of view. But I think it just maybe it's because of the way I write that I really don't write, I think, according to how a lot of authors write. And I really can't explain it.
Okay. That's good. So with that, we have just a couple minutes left before we take another break. Do you have any words of advice for someone who wants to write?
Never give up. Because when I started writing, I was a very poor writer, and I learned you join writing groups, have someone critique your work, go to a place where there are writing groups around, Like here where I'm living now, the closest one is about 40 miles, and I've never been to it, but 40 miles away. But join writing groups. I think they helped me quite a bit. You get to look at other people's work and compare yours to theirs, and it's a lot easier to see your mistakes and catch your mistakes, and it just basically improve your writing.
And I have to agree with you. After doing 8 books myself, my first ones are quality-wise nothing compared to how they've gone over years of just doing it and just keeping at it and stuff. Even my short stories have improved. So I agree with you 100% on that. Never give up. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back, and we'll talk about social media and other things and other stories. We'll be right back.
Okay.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Indie Lector is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lector, Amazon.
All righty, and we are back. This is your host, Beyond Bourgeois. You are listening to or you're watching Indie Beacon Radio on YouTube or on our Facebook page, Indie Beacon Radio. We appreciate you being with us, and we have with us today Elizabeth Hall. And welcome again, Elizabeth. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
So you have the 2 books that you're currently writing. You have 3 books that are out. What else do you have planned for yourself?
As far as writing, that's about it. I kind of took a break and took a vacation, took 3 months off and took a vacation, but that's about it, and I'm looking at possibly getting the Western out in 2019. Now, sometimes when I really put my mind to it, I really write fast. Destiny, it took me 2 months to write that book. The problem I had was finding someone qualified enough to critique it, because I do have a vision problem, and it's really hard for me to catch my mistakes. And I need a good editor, and like I said, the hardest part was for me to find an editor. There are a lot of people out there who edit my work, and they just didn't do a very good job. So I finally found one excellent editor, and I'm going to stick with her.
Good. Yes, editing is very critical for writing books these days.
Right.
So just to recap, you have Destiny, which is currently out, Human Megamore, and then Sacrificial Child. Those 3 are the current ones that are out. Your Western you're working on and you hope to have out in 2019. What about your other one, your attorney murder case?
I'm going to put that one on the back burner and try to work on the Western and get that one out.
Okay, so hopefully.
Because, I wrote, I just published, 3 books is really hard to do at one time. So I really focused on the 3, and from now on, I'm going to work on just one particular book, one particular story, and finish that one, and then start on another one.
Good advice. That definitely is good advice. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, do you have Facebook or a website or anything?
I have a website. I do Facebook. I'm not that good. I really don't look at my Facebook account that much. The best thing to do is go to the website, and it's Edmantha Hall books.com. That's EdmanthaHallBooks.com.
Okay. And are you on Twitter or Tumblr or anything else?
I really don't have a lot of no, I haven't done Twitter or anything else, just Facebook. And mostly my relatives post my work on their Facebook accounts because I really don't have a lot of Facebook friends. I'm really not one for that much for
Right. You had mentioned you had a vision problem, so I'm sure that plays a lot into being able to see the screens and stuff like that. So I fully understand that. Well, it is a time for us to wrap up the show. I thank you very much for your time, and we wish you the best of luck.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All righty, that's the end of the show. Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Don't forget to send me your picture so I can impose it into the video, okay? I'll be doing that in the morning.
Right. Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.